Hey everyone, it's Alex and welcome to this video. We're going to be discussing the Spotlight caches of April and May. That's right, we're doing 2 months. We're looking well into the distance, but bear in mind, a lot can change with patches and OTAs and whatnot. So if you want to stay up to date, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can see my weekly release videos where I talk about the new cards, first impressions. I do meta deck guides. I mean, you're probably familiar with my content already, but half of you aren't subscribed already, so maybe consider hitting the button. Now that that's all out of the way, let's talk about Red Hulk season, or the start of the season, and week 1, April 2nd to April 9th. Now, the real catch here is Red Hulk straight up. It's a good card. So right now it's the first day of Red Hulk's release. It seems pretty impressive. Catching people by surprise though is not something it's doing. It is literally kind of updating in your opponent's hand, and you can see it, and they can see your Red Hulk updating, which was an unexpected, I don't want to say feature, but was not an expected thing with this card. It has the play similar to Apocalypse, where you can see their Apocalypse ticking up. Hulk in hand does not do this. Red Hulk does. So it does not, it's very unlikely to catch someone by surprise for like 8 cubes, because they know like, oh, they have a massive Red Hulk, I can just retreat. I think it takes a little bit of power off the Hulk overall. The other side about this here, and although I think Hulk is pretty good, and I give this week overall a 3-star, it's like Echo. I like Echo, but it is a little unimpressive. Echo is a good card, but it's a Series 4 card, so it's 3,000 tokens. So if you're Spotlight Key, there's probably better value. It's also extremely niche, despite its decent win rate. It's only played in like very niche circumstances, and it's not an inclusion in many decks, as you can see with the abysmal popularity. Now, Sebastian Shaw is interesting because it's actually rising in popularity as Silver Surfer decks start to get a little more powerful and common, and people are starting to experiment with Surfer again. But even at 2.7% of the meta, it's almost irrelevant, and it's only played in Silver Surfer, and so it's extremely niche. Both these cards are very niche, and so ultimately it really kind of drags down the value of your Spotlight keys. Red Hulk's the real catch here. It looks like it's going to be legit despite the updating openly in the hand. So that's what you're going after for this week. Going into week number 2, which is April 9th to 16th, I think the US agent is absolutely trashed here. I think you can definitely skip this week as a whole. Mirage is definitely skippable as well. Series 4, not a lot of value there. I like the card, but again, these are Spotlight keys we're talking about. Jeff, love Jeff. Jeff losing a little bit of kind of star rating thanks to the addition of War Machine and the fact that Control's not really being played as often. Still an absolutely phenomenal card. It needs to be in your collection. Realistically, if you don't have Jeff, that's the card you're going after here. US agent, you can skip. Mirage, you can skip. Jeff's what you want. If you have Jeff already, easiest skip of like your career, because like I think US agent's terrible, and because I say it, of course it's going to absolutely pop off. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation. We need something change for US agent to be that legitimate, to be worth a Spotlight key, in my opinion. Going to April 16th, a decent week. I think Red Guardian's actually pretty good. I'm rating it as 3 stars. But I could very easily move that to 4. The more I think about Red Guardian, the more I like it. It has some synergy with like, you know, Abomination and stuff like that. It's also a targeted ability where like 2 drops tend to have very strong abilities. Like, obviously Zabu is a good example of that. I just think it's a good card. I think it's going to be probably pretty legit. I'm being a little conservative at 3, but I like it. However, Lady Deathstrike, once again, these Series 4 cards being stuffed into these Spotlight caches. It's rough to see because it has a terrible, terrible meta share. It has a terrible win rate. Like, no one wants Lady Deathstrike. Could Red Guardian and Lady Deathstrike be synergistic? Perhaps. But at best, it's like a fancy splash card that you really, like, you're putting in your deck just to meme a bit. It hasn't hit that popular. It's just not that great. It's just really not that great. I hate to see these Season 4 cards in there. And then you have the High Evolutionary. Pretty good card. I think everyone needs High Evo. Now, it used to be a 5-star card, goes down to 4. Its popularity is waning. Its win rate is kind of suffering. You also have Red Hulk. Red Hulk is going to impact High Evo. So if High Evo ever takes off, you got the Hulk that's going to kind of counterbalance that, right? So again, you do see it kind of upgrading and updating and getting powered up, but still, that's a problem you're going to have to deal with, right? So High Evolutionary loses a little bit of power thanks to the Red Hulk. But ultimately, this week is probably rollable for Red Guardian. I feel like it's one you're going to want to have in your collection. However, Lady Deathstrike is definitely one you're going to want to avoid. Going to April 23rd and April 30th, this used to be the absolute god tier week, absolutely insane week with White Widow's original design. This design's still good. Again, like Red Guardian, I could have gone towards 4 stars here, but I still think it's probably closer to 3. If anything, the more I think about it, I actually think I like Red Guardian better than White Widow, which is not what I expected to say last month. But with the changes that they've made to the ability and the way Annihilus will interact with Widow's Kiss, I do think that the White Widow is a little undertuned comparatively than it was before. That is without question, right? It has lost a little bit of its luster. Snowguard. I love Snowguard. I actually like this Max Grecki variant where it's essentially going Super Saiyan or something, but it's a Series 4 card again. Another Series 4 card, kind of just being fodder. It's like 50% of these spotlight caches you don't want to hit. You don't want to hit the tokens. You don't want to hit the Snowguard. I mean, unless the tokens are valuable to you, of course, if you're a free-to-play player. That's a whole different conversation, right? The real winner here is you want White Widow and you want Nico. Nico is truly remarkable. 12% play rate through the meta. It's just a great card. You need Nico. You want White Widow because it's the new fancy card you want to test, and Snowguard is a good consolation prize as well, despite being Series 4. Overall, I think this is the strongest week you're probably going to see in April for sure. So I do like this week overall. And that takes us to April 30th to May 7th, which is the final week of the April season with Baron Zemo. And we have Valentina, Knull, and Blob. Overall, a 4-star week. I do like this week a lot. I think Valentina is probably legit. I ended up upgrading my analysis to a 4-star rating just because I think there's a lot of 6-cost cards that are going to be pretty damn good to get for that discounted rate, especially when you consider the board-wide effect of Luke Cage now. I just think there's going to be potential there, right? And it's worth, I mean, obviously there's RNG there, but I think it's worth rolling on. Knull is a great card, but it's Series 4 and it's been in the Spotlight caches like 15 times. So do you really want Knull again? Another Spotlight variant? Maybe you do. I don't know. If you don't have Knull, it's definitely worth getting, but Series 4 and it's been here like a million times. And then we have Blob. Still a good card. Definitely still a good card. 4-star card, big meta popularity, good win rate. If you don't have Blob already, he's definitely worth getting. So overall, I like this week a lot. Maybe closer to like a 3.5-star week, depending on like the risk being taken with Valentina. Because Valentina is one of those cards, like I think you're going to want to really see testing before you commit to it, because of the RNG factor of it, of course. But I do think that it has some legitimate potential. And again, things might change, buffs might happen, who knows? The meta is always shifting. Now we go into the data mines of the May season. A lot can change here, okay? We are in uncharted territory. The composition of the spotlight casters can change. The power of the cards can change. The abilities of the cards can change. This is subject to change. But regardless, let's talk about it. We have Nocturne, who I believe is like Nightcrawler's daughter or something. Anyways, you can move this once, and when it moves, replace this location with a random new one. Now, I don't know if that's like the location you land on or the location you're moving on, but either way, as a 3-power card, you're playing it on turn 3, so you're going to know where you're playing it regardless location-wise. I think it's okay. The random location element kind of gives me a little bit of pause, because like Scarlet Witch is Scarlet Witch for a reason, and there's a reason why almost no one plays it, because the random location thing can really suck, right? And Nocturne does the exact same thing. So although 3-5 mobile is pretty cool, the random nature of the Scarlet Witch effect is a little discerning. So not a huge fan of it. Not a huge fan of it. We'll see if it overperforms. I can see this getting changed or buffed. Caiera overall is a good card. Not great. It actually has kind of withered in meta popularity. As Destroy gets more popular, people start to turn to Armor for that offensive ability to disrupt the Destroy player, which kind of eats Caiera's lunch a bit, right? So Caiera, although good, I think in the current meta is not quite as good as it was on initial release. Especially since a lot of like, Thanos players are cutting it. It's being cut from the high Evo decks as well. But hey, it might find itself back in. I think it's one you want in your collection, but overall, 3 stars. Selene too. I actually really like Selene, but it's a low meta share. Works really well with goblin-based decks. But a Nihilist can send those back, and you're usually playing a Nihilist with those decks anyways. It's kind of interesting. It's a good card, but it's not great. It's kind of been one of the underperformers we've had, despite the changes that they've made to it. But overall, I like Selene, but it's not one you have to actively seek out. May 14th to 21, it's Sage. Now, Sage feels particularly weak. This seems like a very difficult Wolfsbane to pull off. You can't even Wong it, because Wong and Sage are the same cost. And obviously, they don't benefit each other quite like that. It's just kind of awkward. I mean, if you do a 1, 2, and 3 and you play Sage on top, that's okay power, but it's not great power. Like, it's not like, Cull Obsidian is just easier, right? So I would kind of expect this to get changed and buffed. We'll have to see. It feels a little undertuned. Sage not looking that great. Legion's a good card, but again, Series 4, which limits its value as a Spotlight Cache card, and its popularity is kind of waning ever since it got brought down to a 5/7. Still a good card. It's a cube stealer, it really is. And Tribunal, I give 4 stars despite its kind of waning popularity. Its win rate's kind of deceptive because it has a pretty good cube rate. It's just that it unlocks a whole new archetype, and I think that players want to have those options, right? If you're a player who likes Marvel Snap, you're going to want to have the ability to play all the different types of decks, right? And Tribunal allows you to do that. We go to Namora. Namora, and again, feels really undertuned. A 5/5 that gives +5 power to, you know, Orcas and Namoras and stuff, and that's cool, except Shang-Chi exists, and you can't armor those locations because then the effect won't happen. Really awkward. Really awkward. So I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I like this card at all. So I'm very hesitant. I can imagine it being changed and shifted around slightly. But as of right now, a 2-star card, definitely skippable. But Black Knight's the catch here. If you don't have Black Knight has emerged as a very legitimate meta contender and has been for a couple months since the buff to the Ebony Blade, which now is indestructible and can't have its power reduced. So it's a really good card and definitely an archetype defining card. Skaar, it's just good. It doesn't have the popularity that it used to have. It looks like Thanos getting Mockingbird and all these extra tools has kind of shoved Skaar out, but Skaar is still pretty good, worth having, but it's not one you want to chase. And then we go to Sasquatch, May 28th to June 4th. This is probably the best of the next coming season's cards. Basically allows your bounce-based decks and your discount-based decks to kind of get that extra value. It's a 6/10 that can get reduced pretty rapidly. It seems good. Seems like a pretty high potential Series 5 card, so I'm looking forward to Sasquatch. Obviously a little niche, but that's what all cards are essentially for the most part. Havok, another Series 4 card, as is Ravonna Renslayer, which honestly brings their value down. I like Havok, but it sees almost no play. I really like Ravonna Renslayer, but honestly, she is kind of replaceable in some decks. Like, it's like some of the decks where you don't have Ravonna, it feels like, man, I don't have Ravonna, this deck doesn't work anymore. And other times, she's like the most cuttable card, right? So really kind of unique. Ever since the change to Darkhawk, Ravonna has been in this weird limbo. Despite its popularity with like Goblin-based decks and Annihilus, that's kind of the only place it's being played, right? So I mean, at the end of the day, I like Ravonna. I like having Ravonna, but it's not a chase card in this particular week. At the end of the day, guys, I hope you found this video helpful. Hit the like button if you like to support my content. It really does mean a lot to me, and subscribing truly helps you keep in touch with the channel and its future content. We'll see you on that next Marvel Snap video.